Bridges are stronger when built from both sides.
Hello, and welcome to Building Bridges, a show on the Greensboro Television Network that highlights ways members of the public and members of the Greensboro Police Department can connect with each other. I'm your host, Sandra Hughes. Now, you want to pay close attention to today's show. We're going to discuss a crime that affects about 15 million people each year and costs about $50 billion in damages. It's one of the most widespread crimes in our country. We're talking about identity theft. Some analysts estimate that 2 out of 5 people are victims of identity theft each year. Now, that's a frightful, frightful number, don't you agree? Well, what do you know about identity theft, and how do you protect yourself from it? Our guest today will help you understand the issue and give some valuable information on how you can protect your name and your assets. Please welcome today with us is Detective J.S. Flinchum, Greensboro Police Department Fraud Division, and Ms. Lechelle Yates, Director of Communications and Investigations at Better Business Bureau, serving Central North Carolina. Welcome to Building Bridges, both of you. I've talked to both of you, and I love the fact when you come back, because you just have so much to say about what we're talking about. Let's start with, what is identity theft?
Well, I can answer that. Simply put, identity theft is when someone takes another person's financial identity, such as social security number, date of birth, name, address, or driver's license. When they do that, they do it by the statute of the state of North Carolina. It's for 3 reasons. That's to make a purchase, to do something illegal, or to avoid criminal prosecution. You know, there's got to be one of those things.
So can it happen to anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, anybody is a potential victim, and it cuts across age, race, economics, and anybody is a potential victim.
So it could be someone who has $500 as opposed to somebody who has $500.
And you know, I was looking at some statistics, and actually there were more people last year who were victims who made under $25,000 than people who made $75,000 and above, which was actually kind of really interesting to me. I mean, I don't really think that thieves are necessarily thinking about your dollars. They're just looking for anybody and trying to get information.
So do thieves know they know who they're getting the money from or getting the identity from?
I don't think so. I think in most cases it's a crime of opportunity. In grocery shopping, people will leave their purses open. Somebody will go by and grab it, mail, things of that nature. I think it's more of a crime of opportunity than it is they may target someone individual. Now, I'm sure there are cases where people are targeted based upon their status in life and their income and stuff of that nature. I'm sure that does occur, but the majority of them are not that way.
Okay, so give me some examples of how this happens, how people actually get your identity.
Stealing your mail, picking your pocket, picking your purse, just shoulder surfing.
What's shoulder surfing?
They can watch you when you're doing something, looking over your shoulder.
Okay.
Like if you go to a grocery store or any store and you're doing your debit card or your credit card into the machine and you're putting your PIN code in or anything of that nature, and somebody's standing really, really close to you, you need to stop or ask them to step back. And I mean, there's things that you can do. My wife and I, when we shop, I stand between her and the person behind us so nobody can get that close. The biggest thing that we used to see is the stealing of mail. That used to be the biggest thing in Greensboro that people would do. Well,
the thing that scares me is my mail is usually full of requests, you know, come borrow money, come buy this, come you do that. Does that have anything to do with it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, 56% of victims are actually the thieves who've stolen and gotten those identities, say that they got their identities out of the trash. So when you get those applications, it's not enough to just rip them in half. You really need to get a crisscross shredder so that when you shred those, I mean, really the crisscross will cut the papers into shreds that are like the size of my pinky finger. So don't just go get the little, the shredder that goes, it needs to be crisscross like that, because that is where they're getting a lot of the identities. I mean, the other thing is that they're finding that with the, the new chip cards, it's harder to get the actual credit card numbers, so they are looking and trying to actually open new accounts. So they're not stealing our credit card numbers as much as they are actually opening new accounts in our names.
Oh, I see. Now, is this something that, I know for me it is, but you're the expert, is this something that's exploding right now? I don't remember having to talk about this conversation 10, 15 years ago.
Identity theft has been around for a long time. I used to tell people it's not a crime that people sit around and say, why did you do it? It's a crime that people sit around and say, why didn't you do it? It's tougher today than it has been in the past because financial institutions, the banking industry, people like that have tightened up the way they do business, making it a little bit more difficult. But it's still, I don't want to say it's a relatively easy crime. I wouldn't want to encourage anybody to do it. But it is something that if you put a little bit of homework into, it can be done. And to back up a little bit on your previous question about how it happens, Equifax data breach, that data it's out there now, and it's out there for an eternity now, and that data gets sold. I'll buy it and I'll use it, and then I'll sell it to Lechelle. She'll buy it and use it, and then she'll sell it to you.
Well, and I mean, it's not like when they hack like Target or someplace like that. I mean, the Equifax data breach got social security numbers, mother maiden's names, date of birth. I mean, they got everything that they need to open new accounts. So it's not just, stealing credit card numbers and an email and a password. I mean, they have everything they need to take people's identities. And it's millions of people. So
I remember, this was several years ago, I got a phone call from one of the credit card companies that I use, and they said, and this was the Monday after Thanksgiving. And they said, did you order $800 worth of fragrances online? And I said, are you kidding? No way. And they said, well, we didn't think you would, but that's what's on your record, that you went online, used your credit card number, and bought $800 worth of fragrances. So, of course, they killed it and all that stuff. But I couldn't figure out how someone got the number. And they said, easy, if you go to a restaurant, sometimes when you hand the credit card over to a person to go run it and pay your bill, a lot of times it happens like that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also phishing emails where, people pretend to be your bank or somebody else, and then, they want you to enter your account information. And then you hit the nail on the head, whether it's a waiter in a restaurant or you could be at a drive-thru and you have to hand your card. There's so many different ways that people can get your card information, and you just hand it right over and you don't even think about it.
How are we surviving if it's that easy?
Well, I mean, people are taking steps.
Yeah, the banking industry has really done a lot. That call that you got, they have developed algorithms to monitor people's credit buying. And when they see something outside of the norm, they will contact them either by mail, by phone, by email, by text message. The thing is if you get one of those emails or text message or phone call, if I'm calling you about your credit card number, guess what? I've got your credit card number. So if I call and ask you about your credit card number, that you're being scammed. So they do a really good job at catching those outside of the norms things with the algorithms that they've developed. And that helps. It helps a tremendous amount. It can slow down a purchase if you're the user, but it does help a lot.
Well, I'll tell you, it's so rampant now, so however it's widespread, until people like me are scared of everything. Scared to do anything. And I guess we shouldn't feel that way, right?
No, I mean, you can protect yourself, but you have to be aware, one, that the danger is out there, but you can protect yourself. I mean, you can use strong passwords when you do stuff online. You can, use a credit card and not a debit card if you are going to hand your, your card over to a waiter. Check your credit card statements, if not daily, at least every couple of days, to look for charges that aren't yours. Pull your credit report 3 or 4 times a year to look for charges. You can be proactive and do those things. If you are going to go someplace, when you're at the gas station, check to see, jiggle the place where you're going to put your credit card in and make sure that it's not loose, and check for skimmers. It's just, we have to be aware of our surroundings. So it's just one more step, I think, if we're going to live in this day and age where there is technology.
That's true.
I agree.
I mean, nowadays, technology is wonderful and it's terrible all at the same time.
Yes, ma'am, it is. It is both.
Yeah. So I heard someone on the phone the other day saying, yes, that's my name. Oh, yeah, I'm at 20. And I said, stop! stop. Don't, just don't give somebody who called you on the phone
Absolutely.
all that information. Tell them, give you a number and you call them back or something.
Yes.
We had a guy who called us the other day, and he said, this company called and said that they could lower my interest rate on my cards. It would cost me $1,000, but they would lower the interest rate on all of my cards. And I just had to give them my credit card numbers, the PIN numbers, my name, my address, and all this information. And I said, well, did you give it to them? He said, yes.
Oh, my.
And he's like, well, so what should I do? And I said, well, you need to stop talking to them. You need to call all of your credit card companies and cancel all of those cards. You need to put a freeze on your credit. And he's like, really? I need to do all of that? And at first I thought, am I being punked? I mean, is somebody really pulling a joke on me?
You would think, yeah.
Because I was just blown away that, a stranger calls you, and if somebody could really lower the interest rates on your cards, they're going to know something about you.
Right.
Don't just hand over information like that to a complete stranger on the phone.
I'll tell you, we're all scared to death nowadays with credit cards and scamming and hacking and all of those things. What could make us feel better?
Don't use your debit card. Use a credit card.
Yeah.
Debit card's your money. Credit card's somebody else's money.
Yep.
It's easier to catch it. And if it's a debit card and I take $1,000 out of your bank account, guess what? You're going to be out $1,000 until you can get the paperwork to get it put back in, and the checks will bounce.
And it'll take up to 2 weeks for the bank to actually put the money back in your account. So
Yeah, that's the big thing. Shred,
shredding, definitely
mail,
shred.
anything like that you don't want to keep shredded. Pay close attention to your mail. If you start getting notices of change of address, you start getting a lot of credit card applications and stuff, they should set off some alarms and stuff. You should, now I need to look at my credit report, see what else is on there. And I would recommend that at a very minimum, if you're getting ready to go into debt and buy a car or a house or anything like that, take a good look at your credit well in advance, because if those things are on you, identity theft is a gift that continues to give after you've been victimized. And it can take a while, many years in some cases, to get that stuff taken care of. So you can go in to buy a car, and you may already own 5 cars in another state and don't even know it.
Oh, my gosh.
So you're not going to be buying a car that day, because you're going to be spending the next few months trying to get those 5 cars that you bought that you really didn't buy removed from your credit report and get that cleaned up.
So do you know of any victims that really have suffered through this?
I don't know any particular victims. I know, read some statistics and things like that. Do you?
That's the reason why I referenced the cars.
Yeah.
We had a young lady here in North Carolina, in Greensboro. She went to buy a car. Single mother, needed a car to get back and forth to work, and she went to buy a car, and she already owned 4 in California and 1 in another city in the state of North Carolina. And we did, she pulled her credit report, and this poor lady was in debt. She didn't even have a clue. And she didn't buy a car that day. And it took a while for her to get all that stuff off her credit report, and for us to do our investigation and everything. And it was rough on her for a while. I mean, she didn't have a clue.
But now the people who are doing this, I'm thinking, are not necessarily stone cold criminals. Aren't there people doing it who just need some money or need a car?
Potentially, but there are people who do make a profession out of doing this. And I can see some points, why people can do that, because they need money. I understand that. Pay a bill or something of that nature, but there's other avenues out there for that. I do think there are people that do it as a crime of opportunity, but I also know that there are people that do it as a profession.
Well, I mean, you've told me a couple different stories. First, talk about the lady that worked in an office and the person who worked right beside of her.
Two ladies worked together in an office. They looked similar. And one lady stole the other lady's credit card and some checks, and she was just spending her money like crazy.
No.
And the other victim, she didn't have a clue. She didn't know about it until she thought she had all this money in the bank. She went to make a great big purchase, and she didn't have the funds. And then come to find out it was the lady beside her, and that worked out well for the victim, because the bank, they fixed it and everything. But it was just one of those things she didn't know. She didn't read her credit report. She didn't read her bank statements.
I guess because of years past when we didn't have to worry about this, a lot of us, those of us who are seniors, don't think to go keep a check on something every day or every other day, because it's never happened before. Right. So it can't happen to me. It's never happened to me, but that's not the case.
No. We here in the South are a little bit too polite. And, you know, people will call you on the phone. Rachel from Credit Card Services calls me about 3 times a week, telling me there's nothing wrong with your credit, but we need to talk to you about your credit card. I don't have a clue who Rachel is. I hang up on her. But there are people, because we are much more friendly here in the South than other places in the United States, and I don't know why that is, but it is. And we will talk to those folks.
Yes.
And they know that they'll say the right things, and folks here they'll just divulge that information like your gentleman did. And, you know, without even considering, wait a minute, hold on a second. The bank's calling me and asking me for my credit card number. They're asking me for my bank account information. That should be right there on their screen in front of them. And it's unfortunate, but folks need to just step back for a second and think about what you're being asked over the phone. When I call people as part of my job as a detective, I will tell them this is who I am, and, you know, if you need my badge number and verify who I am, you know, I'm okay with you doing that. And in some cases, I'll tell them I'd like to come out and talk to you so you'll know I am who I say I am. There's a lot of people that will just go ahead and talk to me over the phone based on what I say. You know, I have some that will say, okay, I'll call you back. Well, they call and verify.
Okay.
And I'm all right with that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm all right with that. That doesn't bother me. It slows down the process a little bit, but I'm all right with that.
But that's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you both have given us so much important information about this that will hopefully keep our consumers safe as they buy through the internet. And that buying business has gotten bigger and bigger. But we know that there's some unscrupulous people out there who will do their best to take advantage of people. We hope this doesn't happen to you, but if it does, Detective Flinchum and Ms. Yates will give you some advice on what steps you can take to prevent further harm to your finances and reclaim your good. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Building Bridges, a monthly show that brings together police and community members to make our city safer. I'm your host, Sandra Hughes. Now, if you just tuned in today, we're talking about identity theft. Someone using your name to steal your money, property, and reputation. We're fortunate to have 2 experts on this topic with us today. Let's continue our conversation with Detective J.S. Flinchum, Greensboro Police Department Fraud Division, and Ms. Lechelle Yates, Director of Communications and Investigations, Better Business Bureau, serving North Carolina. Great to have you guys with us, and I was so excited about the conversation we had right before the break. Excited and scared, too, because all of that sounds like if it happens to you, it's going to be tough. How can people protect themselves from having their identity stolen?
You can go first if you'd like.
Okay. Sure. I mean, fortunately, there's a lot of simple things that we can do that, don't cost a lot of money and don't have to stress us out. I mean, one thing, you can get a shredder, a crisscross shredder that you can have at home.
It's a simple thing, yeah.
Simple thing, yeah. And they're not expensive. Another thing is we're actually having an event April the 21st, the Saturday after tax day, for a free shredding. And it's going to be over at the Whole Foods parking lot in Greensboro. So that's a free and easy thing that you can do. You can also, get your credit report about every 3 or 4 months and look for, any accounts on there that you don't recognize. You can make sure that you use good, strong passwords that are easy or not easy to, recognize and things like that. We could go on and on. Make sure that you use a credit card and not a debit card. Make sure that you get your statements and look at your checking account and your debit card. Every couple of days, gone are the days that you can look at it at the end of the month and see, to look for any charges that aren't yours.
I would add to the password, use passphrases. Passphrases are a little bit tougher to guess. They're also easier for you as a user to remember. I love cats. Exchange some of the letters for numbers, put you what's called an alphanumeric character in there. I love cats, exclamation point. Things like that. That makes it tougher to guess. It's easier for you to remember, something versus having to remember a 12-digit password that doesn't make any sense.
I'm always afraid to write passwords down. Because there's so many things in my life that require a password.
Yes, ma'am.
Until I write them down, but then I think, gosh, if somebody gets a hold of this, They've got it all.
There's less danger of you writing them down and keeping them in your house than using really simple, easy ones that somebody could guess. I mean, that is better. And you can also, if you did want to keep them on your phone or something, there are password encryption programs where you could actually keep them on your phone. So, but I mean, I actually made a little password book for my parents for Christmas.
Oh.
So that's not a danger. That would be better than using a really simple, easy to guess password.
Absolutely.
What about all the junk mail you get in the mail every day?
Shred it.
Yeah, shred it. Look at it first. You know, don't just throw it in the trash. Look at it and say, so that if let's say you have a bank account with Wells Fargo, and all of a sudden you get a statement, you get a junk mail from them, you think that's just junk mail, I'll chunk it in the garbage, but it was really a notice of a change of address. Because what banks will do nowadays is if somebody takes over your account and they want it to change the address to their residence, then they'll send, they being the financial institute, will send a letter to both addresses. So if you get one, you're like, wait a minute, I haven't done this, and you need to call. I mean, so look at it before you throw it away, and don't just throw it away. The cross shredder is probably one of the best ways to shred information. If you don't have access to that, if you can burn it, I mean, you don't want to just take that letter and throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
You know,
And not
don't-
even
And even
tear
just
it.
ripping it once, I mean, come on, that's easy enough to put together.
Yeah, think about it. When you rip it, what do? You rip it
Yeah.
and you drop it in a trash can together, right?
That's
so I mean,
right.
I got all the halves of the pie right there that I need to put it back together.
back.
Yeah.
Check your financial statements, things of that nature. Be aware of certain things. Certainly, if you start getting calls from collection agencies, that's a big flag. That's a huge
Oh,
flag. Yeah,
okay.
so.
One of the other things, talking about junk mail and stuff like that, medical identity theft is actually the fastest growing type of identity theft, and that's when somebody impersonates you and goes to the doctor and then they use your insurance.
Really?
Yes, and which is actually the problem with medical identity theft is it's also one of the hardest to untangle. Your records, medical records, become entangled with theirs, and so it's hard for doctors to know, well, did you really have appendicitis or was it somebody else?
Oh, my.
And so think about all the prescription bottles that you just throw in the trash. Well, it has your doctor's name on it. And so all they have to do is get in the trash and get your pill bottle out. Then they know your doctor's name. Then they can call the doctor and say, oh, I've changed addresses, and give them a new address. Then they can call and say, oh, can you send me all of my records? Then they get all of your medical records, which is going to have mother's maiden name, driver's license, social security number, and now they can become you. So all of your pill bottles, just mark out the information, shred, the prescription bags that come and they have all that information on there, shred that.
I usually just toss them in the garbage.
Exactly.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
so
Oh, gosh. I knew about identity theft, but this is more than what I imagined. And I don't want to be scared to death, and not do anything, especially nowadays with online shopping.
Right.
I love to shop
Yeah.
online. How dangerous is that?
As we talked in the previous episode where we were talking about before Christmas, there are things that you can do to protect yourself online. The number one thing is get you a credit card specifically for that. Don't use your debit card under no circumstances. Make sure that you're using encrypted websites, HTTPS. Make sure it's a high level of encryption. Try not to do any buying in a public place on a public Wi-Fi. Those are type of things. And monitor your account activity. Most of those, Amazon, for example, they're really good about allowing you as the user to monitor the activity on your account. You can get IP addresses, a history of purchases, shipping addresses, and things of that nature. They'll also notify you if there's been a change in your account. And those are things that you can do to protect yourself online. And the biggest mistake that I see people making is they're using that debit card. And I don't ever do that. A debit card is great to have, and everybody should have one. But you got to be careful with it. And that online shopping, you just give it some thought.
yeah.
Give it some forethought, and then make sure that when you do that, and if you get an email from Amazon that says, "Hey, click here about your order," and you're like, "Wait a minute, I haven't ordered anything. For the love of God, don't click that link."
Oh, okay. Say that again.
Yes.
Yeah, if you get you're dealing with Amazon, I'm just using them as an example.
Yes.
You get an email from them that says, "We've processed your order. There seems to be a problem," or something of that nature, and there's a link in there. But you're thinking, "I haven't ordered anything from Amazon," so by nature, your tendency would be to click that link.
Yeah, see what it
Don't
is.
do that. Because that's probably going to be some type of virus or key login software. It's going to take you somewhere. They're going to want you to put your credit card number in or something like that, and you just become a victim.
I actually got an email. I had helped my parents order some canvas prints, and I got an email from UPS and I was like, this email, the whole email just looked wrong. And I was trying to remember what I had ordered. I didn't click on that email, then I got another one, and I got another one, and it was going to my parents' house, and for the life of me, I could not figure out what it was. Never dawned on me that it was those prints. I never opened any of the emails. I didn't click on anything. And finally, my mom calls, and she's like, the prints came in, and I'm like, oh, that's what those emails were.
Oh,
Yeah.
And because if you are getting those, go back to the account. Go to Amazon, don't click on the link, go back around to Amazon, and then click in your account and see if you really did order something.
Right.
So,
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, what if someone gets the identity stolen? What are the consequences? How long will that last for them to get out of that trouble?
It's a gift that keeps giving.
yeah.
No.
I found a staggering statistic that 62% of people who had their identity stolen, that 5 years later, they were still dealing with the ramifications.
Oh, my.
So, and people were saying that 30% of the people said that they'd had trouble getting a credit card, that it affected getting a mortgage. So, I mean, if it happens to you, try to find out quickly and try to take care of it quickly. And it's very stressful, people have said, and it costs $3,500.
Oh, ouch.
And I
ouch.
mean, you have to do a lot of the work yourself. We've had people call us and say, is there a company out there that will take care of this? And there are, but you can do a lot of the work yourself. But
On a scale of 1 to 10, how scared should we be about identity theft?
I don't think anybody should be scared of identity theft. We can't live our life scared. I think we just need to be aware and cautious. On a scale from 1 to 10, 3, 4 maybe.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, and
I
not
feel better.
scared,
My
but
heartbeat
just
is slowed
right.
down, so.
You know, not so scared that when you go to do a financial transaction or anything like that, you're like, okay, who's around me that's going to steal my identity, or is it really safe to do this? I really want this pair of shoes, or whatever the case may be, but I'm scared to do it. But you can't. When you start living your life that way, you've allowed the criminals to win. It's like we always have said with terrorists: when we start changing the way we live, then they have won. So we can't do that. We have to be cautious, not scared. There are a lot of things that people can do and watch, and you know your own credit history. You should. Most people should know your own credit history. And like Lechelle said, there are companies out there that will take care of this for you. They'll fix it for you for a fee. But then you need to ask yourself, wait a minute, I've got to give yet another third party all of my financial identity.
That's
What
right.
if they're hacked, or they have an unscrupulous employee there that steals my information?
Yeah.
It is an aggravation, if you will, to take care of it on your own. But I that is probably going to be the best.
Yeah.
And it can be very frustrating because a lot of times these businesses will turn over a debt to a collection agency. They cannot be nice people.
Yeah.
You know, they can bug you to death. And so when you tell them, look, this is not me, I didn't do this, I'm a victim of identity theft, I didn't incur this, so I'm not going to pay it. It becomes the fact that they want their money.
Yeah.
So you know they can annoy you a little bit until you finally convince them otherwise. I didn't do this.
But I mean, the steps are easy. I mean, you get a police report that says that you've been a victim of identity theft. You report it to the collection agencies.
Right.
The FTC has a great website at identitytheft.gov. They walk you through the whole process. They have letters. They tell you what to do, what to send to the collection agencies. So it is going to be annoying, but at least the resources are out there. You just have to be diligent.
Right.
And
So-
it's wise to make sure you do something, not just say, oh, well.
yeah.
Right. Do something.
No,
Don't
you've
just say,
got-
oh, well. Yeah.
if you say, oh, well, then you're not going to get a mortgage. You're not going to be able to rent an apartment if you don't take care of it.
And you told me earlier that this identity theft doesn't only happen to people with lots and lots
Oh,
of
no.
money.
It happens to everybody.
It could happen to someone who's making minimum wage.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It happens to children that don't even work.
Oh, yeah.
Well, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's another issue that we haven't talked about, but and it's usually family members that will steal a child's identity, and parents don't find out about it until the kids turn 18, they want to get a credit card, maybe they're going off to college.
Yep.
It's when they go to apply for something that they need credit for, and then they find out, oh my gosh, look at all the things that they have on their credit report.
Oh, goodness.
So
goodness.
that's a whole separate issue.
Happened a decade ago, then you got to try to go back and convince those people you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Which I would say it's probably going to be a little bit easier to convince a financial institution that a 5-year-old
Yeah.
didn't come
buy a
out and
car.
get 10 credit cards or something of that nature. Yeah,
A car, that's true.
absolutely.
And
So,
the one thing that we haven't talked about that everybody can do is put a freeze on your credit reports.
Now, what does that mean?
So you have to call each of the credit bureaus and tell them, I want to put a freeze. And so then if you want to get another line of credit, if you want to get a loan, if you want to get a phone, if you want to get a mortgage, then you call them and say, I'm going to be applying for a mortgage, and then they give you a number. But you won't get any more credit card applications. It blocks anybody from getting any line of credit in your name.
So are you advising us to do that?
If you are a victim of the Equifax breach, absolutely.
absolutely.
It can be a little bit of a hassle because you do have to call if you want to get credit and get that removed. Sometimes they will charge you if you want to remove it. But it is a surefire way to keep somebody from opening a credit card in your name.
I've heard of freezing the credits, but I didn't understand exactly what that's about. Do you know people doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you report that you're a victim of identity theft to the Greensboro Police Department, we'll give you a public copy of the report because you're going to need it. And we also send out a pamphlet with information that covers what Lechelle just said. It gives you a step-by-step instructions, phone numbers, people to contact, and it even gives you a template of a form letter that you can attach to a copy of the police report when you respond to those folks. It tells you how to keep records of all that too, because you're going to need to keep records of what you've done, who you've contacted, and things of that nature, so that when you go through the process of getting it removed, it's easier, and you always have somebody, a note, well, I talked to so-and-so on this date and time, and they said for me to do this, so I did that. It's still on my credit, I need it taken off. Yeah, the freeze is a good idea if you've been a victim, because it will prevent you from being victimized again, because typically, I steal your ID, I sell it to her, she uses it, she sells it to somebody else. So your financial identity can be floating around out there for a while.
Wow. Now, you also said there are a number of ways to protect yourself. Where can people go to find that information if they've missed our program today?
Well, identitytheft.gov is a great one. That's set up at the FTC. Simple to use, walks you through. They've got all kinds of great information. But they also have information if you haven't been a victim, but if you're just looking to protect yourself. There's the Identity Theft Resource Center. They have a great website too with all of the same kind of information. There's all kinds. I mean, if you just Google identity theft, you'll find lots of information.
Should people check there even if they don't know they've been?
Yeah, be informed. Stay informed. Absolutely. You can do those websites. We have the pamphlet. We'll mail out if people request it. The only thing I would question or caution folks on the internet is if you do Google something and you go to a website and that website starts asking you to put in your financial information in order to give you information about how to protect yourself. Don't. But the FTC's website is fantastic. It is. I mean, we get pamphlets from them to hand out. It's free. You can request it. It's all free. You may have to put your name and mailing address in there to get it, but it's free, and it's a great trove of information on what to do.
Well, I'll tell you, I have learned a lot today from the two of you, and I thank you so much for letting us have it. In this short time, I've learned all the things I need to do, should have done, and better do coming up, and you've heard it from the experts. Now, if you haven't taken steps to protect your identity, do it today. Your name is incredibly valuable. Thanks for watching us today, and until next time, I'm Sandra Hughes. Be safe.
This show was funded in part by the Greensboro Police Foundation, an independent nonprofit organization whose mission is to enhance Greensboro's economic strength by promoting the safest city possible for its residents, workers, and visitors through support of the Greensboro Police Department. For more information about the Greensboro Police Foundation, visit www.greensboropolicefoundation.org.